How do you think Croatia felt watching that?
Still tired, I'd imagine, from another extra time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I mean, as a prospect, they'll have just. I imagine. I know the traffic's not great in Qatar, but they'll have got back to the hotel, put that on, and that's who you're facing next. And this is what are they the oldest team?
Yes.
They played like it on Monday.
Yeah, and the midfield in particular. You can view that as experience as well of players that have performed on this stage, but physically and against a Brazil team that are going to attack you, have got wide players that are going to run at you. Having older, tired players might not be fantastic.
Well, even today, looking at the Japan game, Japan were getting down the wings against Croatia. They literally looked to me like they bypassed the midfield because they knew that's where Croatian strength was. Went round the sides and got quite a lot of joy. So looking at the Brazil performance today, I mean, good luck to Croatia, because I can't. The problem with Croatia, they have the experience, but I don't think they'll be able to use that experience. And they have Lovren at centre back, who has been making mistakes and getting away with them during this World Cup. Today he didn't get away with one, but I think it could be another heavy defeat for the opposition.
Worst penalties you've ever seen?
Up there.
From Japan?
Not necessarily. I mean,
come on, Sasha. They were
they were quite bad. But okay, the first Minamino one was terrible.
Yeah, the next one? They missed the second one.
Well, the thing is...
Or at least they were saved. I mean,
the keeper got down reasonably well. They went down his throat. He had to get down for them. So, I've seen worse penalties than that. But I think once the Minamino one is missed, because it's so bad, you just feel that they're really up against it.
Okay, maybe not individually the worst, but as a collective of shootout penalties, they were.
But again, this is, I don't think, the situation that Japan are particularly familiar with. No. Whereas if you look at Croatia, there's like a whole list of these defeats. Actually, defeats and wins as well. So this is, I think, the 7th of the last 8 playoff matches that have gone to penalties. And I actually looked at them. I watched the first one in Vienna in a bar when they lost to Turkey. That mad game, they scored in the last minute and had time to concede. Modric missed a penalty in that one and they went out 3-1. Bilic was the manager. It was completely insane.
That was in 2008?
That's 14 years ago, exactly.
Good Lord.
And Modric was already an international, I think, for a couple of years at that stage. So this is just, again, shows you the age of this team, no matter how good they are.
How were you, Liam?
Annoyed, because I felt like we'd really invested everyone watching to get to pens and then have such a poor shootout. As you say, the pens are quite bad. It's the 7th World Cup penalty shootout in a row that's been won by the team taking second, which just doesn't feel advantageous to me. The split, supposedly statistically, modern data shows it's about 50-50, but in my head you always have an advantage taking first, because as long as you score, you're going to be fine. If you go second, you need either your keeper to make a save or them to mess up. And I believe the goalkeeper, it's another shootout where a Croatian keeper's made 3 saves, which is, I think, another World Cup record or a joint record. So
Subasic against Denmark.
So bad penalties, good saves. I think they can be both. But yeah, sadly not a great set of pens. But I think that's an issue with Japan. And as good as their players are, they've not got a ton of goal scorers, sort of clinical players to take penalties. But they'll have an Asian Cup coming soon, and they've got a lot to be optimistic about.
And also, they've got some really special memories, without being too cheesy about it. They've had some pretty amazing memories from this World Cup, beating a couple of world champions, of course, in Germany and Spain. A nice touch from Perisic after Croatia won the penalty shootout. Before he went over and joined the rest of his teammates, he consoled. He went and shook hands and kind of comforted some of the opposition players. And he it was, of course, who had equalised a game that Croatia looked well out of at that point with an extraordinary header.
A great ball in from Dejan Lovren. But I love Perisic. I mean, look at him, just such a professional, just such a skillful, smart player. He was on the end of many things today, and including, he had a one-on-one early doors, which I think, and we'll come back to this, Shuchigon, they did very, very well on to hold his position. That header, he was 11, 12 yards out, planted it into the bottom corner when his team really needed it. For me, that's one of the best goals of the tournament, actually. Just the execution of it. But I think, sadly, his team in this game, I thought Japan looked much more interesting. Japan looked like the accomplished team. We talked about the games where they defeated Spain, defeated Germany. I felt in those games, they were good for perhaps 10, 15 minutes, and they got quite lucky. Today, I thought was a very accomplished Japan performance. They played like a big side. I guess the team that finished second, only 4 years ago. And I thought this was it wasn't their game to lose, but here they played as equals, which I think for Japan, looking at that game afterwards, for coaching staff, for the players, they can say, look, we went out on penalties, but it wasn't a fluky the way we got to the penalties. We played as equals.
All right. 7th time to penalties, or 7th time to extra time of their last 8 knockout matches. Good luck getting to extra time with Brazil.
I
There were
just-
120 minutes in which there were 2 goals, and I mean, it was played. For anyone who wasn't watching or fell into a deep slumber during the course of those minutes, it was played at a completely different pace to the evening's game between Brazil and South Korea.
Yeah, and there's a lack of control, I think, from both sides. Japan's best moments against Germany and Spain had come really in transition and, as you mentioned, Sasha, in sort of spells of 10, 15 minutes of being really good and not sort of dominating a game for 90 minutes. And there were points where it got quite pinbally, I think, towards the end, and sort of both teams really going for it. I completely agree with you on Perisic. I think he's been fantastic. I think he's scored now at 5 major tournaments in a row, which is including European Championships.
But I thought one of the reasons perhaps that Japan didn't have to go hell for leather for 10, 15 minutes today was because I think they were much more in the game. I think there were situations in the second half where they broke, but in fewer numbers than they did in the previous game. So I thought they were very much, I think maybe while they weren't in complete control, they were in most control. I think we've seen them in a long time. And I think really, really in this game. I don't really agree about falling into slumber because I think it was an intriguing enough game, and also because the underdog were leading and because of the narrative there, I thought it was actually quite watchable.
First time they've led, of course, gone 1-0 up in this tournament as well. So a completely different prospect there in terms of managing a game from early on, having leading as well.
Hello there. If you've enjoyed this video, why not subscribe to this channel? And if you'd like more Totally Football Show content, then just search for us on Apple, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. Not an Athletic subscriber yet? Then just head to theathletic.com/totally to find out our latest entry offer.